Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books. And today I am here with a very special review of Mexican Gothic. So, Mexican Gothic is a Gothic horror novel which follows Noemi. Noemi is a socialite from Mexico City. Her family is clearly very wealthy, and her cousin had been recently married when they get a letter from her talking about like ghosts and weird things, and the cousin just does not sound like herself. So Noemi's dad sends her to her cousin to check out, see what's going on over there, right? Noemi's dad thinks that maybe the cousin Catalina needs a psychiatrist. So off goes Noemi. Noemi she ends up in a rural part of Mexico. This is set in the 1950s, where her cousin's husband's family has built like a grand English mansion. They made their wealth off of silver mines in Mexico. And there is actually like that, all of this is based on like real history. So Noemi ends up in this old English manor house that's really freaking creepy. It becomes clear right away that the family is very odd and that the house is very odd. They've got all these like silver things everywhere, but the house is clearly like hasn't even been dusted in forever. The servants that the family has don't talk, like they refuse to talk to Noemi. There's all these weird rules that she is given, and they don't even let her see her cousin whenever she wants. So that is it. That's the premise. That's all you need to know if you're going to read this book. So I'm going to go into some of these themes, trying to reveal as little as possible. So one of the main themes that like just stuck out to me is that of eugenics and bodies. Silvia Moreno-Garcia actually has a degree in which she wrote, I believe it's a master's thesis on eugenics. So she is an expert on this, and it really comes through. Howard, who is the patriarch of the family that her cousin has married into, is clearly really into eugenics. He cites books to her and just talks about the superiority of the white race and the inferiority of indigenous cultures. Right away, like it's pointed out to us that Noemi has darker skin, right? That her indigenous roots are clearly visible in her skin color. She's asked about them and is told that this is a source of inferiority. Noemi, however, is such a strong woman. Like, she's being told this to her face, and she just reacts to it so beautifully. But either way, despite seeing her as inferior, Howard, the patriarch of the family, still sees Noemi as very desirable. Noemi is beautiful, we are told. The way that Silvia Moreno-Garcia describes Noemi's clothes is just fantastic. And these are clothes from the 1950s, and like, when you look at pictures of 1950s Mexican movie stars, like they are just fantastic. And that is very much the way I imagine Noemi, like a classic 1950s movie star, who is seen as inferior in this book because of her skin color. So eugenics is a reoccurring theme, and in fact, the kind of mystery horror element within the novel is very much premised on this idea of bodies, how bodies get used, how the family has reproduced. Because if you are part of a family who believes that their whiteness is part of their superiority, what the hell are you doing in Mexico? Right? Why would you move here? And all of that is explained, and it's explained how the family has been able to maintain their idealized, mental version of the superior white race in here. It's actually like real horrible. This is like the horror elements are very clear here. The other theme that really stands out is that of colonialism. Right? Howard's family had gone to Mexico explicitly to mine Mexico out of its silver to make their fortune that way. He treated the workers in this mining town horribly. He saw them as inferior. Like, there's even mention about how people were buried. Like, he Howard brought English miners from England, and he buried them in a separate cemetery than the Mexican workers were buried in. So it is very clear, like, that these people are colonizers in Mexico, that they have not assimilated into Mexican culture, Mexican village life. The people in the house have nothing to do with the people in the village. In fact, people in the village don't always even have never even seen some of the people that live up in the house. And so the colonialism has been part of what building this house, what the family has built their fortune on. So it's just there the entire time, this theme of colonialism. Like, you can't separate it from the horror that is happening in the house. The other, though, really strong element, which is present in all of Silvia Moreno-Garcia's writing, is that of feminism. Noemi is a strong, stubborn woman in 1950s Mexico, where women did not have the right to vote. But because Noemi is wealthy, there is some privilege in that, where, she can live the life of a socialite, and she's not expected to have a career. She's expected to marry well. But Noemi has not, despite having multiple suitors. She has not married. She's pursuing an education, and she's trying to figure out, like, her contribution to the world. She knows she is meant to do more than be a housewife and a pretty, like, thing. She, however, embraces the power that her beauty gives her. She knows that there's a game being played because she is beautiful and desirable to men, and that she can wield that power. And she tries to wield it at the house with the men in the house, because it's primarily men in the house. And it is that stubbornness, that determination that really makes her a great central character in the story, because you want to connect to the main character in some ways, and you don't want her to just be like a frail flower, right? Because this is written for a modern audience. We want her to ask questions, to poke around, and that is exactly what she does. Is she like, a lot of the decisions she's making are understandable. Like I understand. Like, she's not making stupid decisions. Sometimes it's not necessarily the smartest choices that she's making, but you always understand why she's making the choices that she is. She's not making them because, oh, I don't know, I'm just a stupid heroine in a silly Gothic novel. No, she is a determined person, and there are things driving her choices, even when they might not be necessarily the smartest choice when you're dealing with some supernatural things happening here. Now, why I loved this novel, because if it is not clear yet, I loved this book. I already really like Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I've read several of her novels this year. I read Gods of Jade and Shadow, Untamed Shore, Prime Meridian. I'm really into Silvia Moreno-Garcia right now. But there's just so many Mexican references in this novel that spoke to my heart. And this is like the same in every one of her novels. Now, if you're not Mexican, if you're not into Mexican culture, that those references are not gonna deter, they're not gonna take away your enjoyment of the book. They're there just as an extra, as a bonus for those of us who are Mexican and who are gonna understand those references. There are several references to Pedro Infante, to China Poblanas, lots and lots of references to the Mexican Revolution. I'm not including it as a theme here, only because I'm not an expert on Mexican Revolution history. But if you are, she's definitely saying something here about the Mexican Revolution, about class in Mexico. I mean, it is because she makes it very clear from the beginning that Noemi is of an upper class. Her skin might be darker, but she has wealth. But not everybody in Mexico does. Especially you see it in the world of this mining town near the English Manor, where people depended on mining, and when the mining business collapsed, then so did the economy of this area, and the most hurt were the poor people in this town. So lots and lots of Mexican history, Mexican references in this book. I saw that some people were reviewing it and complaining that like it wasn't Mexican enough for them, and so this is where like own voices reviewers are going to be much more helpful, because all the own voices reviewers I've been seeing are noticing all the Mexican references. Like, this is Mexican enough. It's just, I think that people, when they pick up a book by a Mexican author with a story set in Mexico, they expect like a story of like immigration or a story about poverty and violence, and that's not exactly what you get here. It's not a story about immigration. Class is a theme here, but the focus is this wealthy family, and the main character is wealthy, so you're not gonna get like a sad story of tears and poverty. And I do think that it's racist to expect all books set in Mexico to have those themes. Mexican writers have so much to offer the world in terms of a commentary and characters and story, and that is why I love Silvia Moreno-Garcia, because like each book that she's written, it plays with totally different genre conventions, and she's not afraid of like writing things that are so like different from the things she's written in the past. So I really like that, and I'm really happy that Mexican Gothic is now a bestseller. It is sold out in most stores, and it is back order. Silvia Moreno-Garcia announced that it has now gone into its 4th printing, and that just like, it makes me so happy when a book by a Mexican author set in Mexico does so well, because it's gonna open doors for more of those kinds of stories to be written. Now, okay, I've been gushing about the book, and I can go on and on gushing about it, but who is this book not for, right? Because if you liked what I've been talking about here, then you're probably going to be interested. You're going to pick it up, but this book is not for everybody. If you don't like Gothic stories, stay away. 75% of this book is slow burn suspense. It's Noemi, our main character, noticing little things, right? So the book is very descriptive of the house, of the wallpaper, the light, like the tub, the faucets. Like, it's descriptive because the house itself is a character in this book, right? So that means it's gonna be a slow burn. There are instances in which Naomi notices one thing, and then that leads her down one path, and we spend some time on that path before we kind of come back and now focus on something else. So if you are purely a plot-driven reader, it's not going to be for you. I tend to like a lot of plot in my books, but I want more, or I appreciate more of a mix, plot versus character development. The last, like, 4th of the book is where all the plot is. Plot, action. That is also where all the horror is at. Like, if you're reading the book, like 3/4 of it are not going to have any horror, really. You're just wondering, what's up with this house? What is up with the family in this house? Because it's wrong. Something's off here. But you don't get the answers until the last 4th of the novel. And that is where a lot of the content warnings actually for this book rely. So, content warnings for body horror. There's a lot of body stuff going on in this book. Sexual assault, incest, suicide, murder, violence. There's a lot of that, but it's all in the last 4th. So the last 4th is like, go. I've seen some people say that there's not a ton of horror, and in that way there isn't, because it's all at the very end. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh, totally fine. I'm not scared. This is nothing. And then that night I was having nightmares. I mean, I also finished it at 1 a.m. and then tried to go to sleep. So beware of that. You might want to read this book in the light of day and, you know, take your time with that last part of it. So that is my review of Mexican Gothic. Clearly I enjoyed it, but if you've read it or you purchased it, let me know what you think down below, if you're gonna get to it soon or if you just bought it for its gorgeous cover and you're gonna keep it in your bookshelf sitting there looking beautiful. Because I'm so inspired by this cover. I've started playing with some of my different mediums to recreate this cover. It's just 1950s fashion. Ooh, gorgeous. So yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.